All right.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Hello.
Okay. Hi. Good evening. If you hear a weird sound every once in a while, I don't know if you can hear that. It's me sitting on an exercise ball.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much weird noise you can pick up is what I hear. But let's start with a prayer. Heavenly Father, I ask that you remove that from my mind. Creator, I pray that you be with all of us tonight, that you join our hearts and our minds as we come to understand you more fully and come to realize the work that's ahead of us. In your Son, Jesus Christ's name, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
It's so funny, the Heavenly Father thing, I noticed that is automatic. As just like, it's just a subconscious, when I pray by myself, that's the first thing still. And I don't know if anyone else is kind of experiencing that similar kind of tug of war with, goodness, how hard is it to change one's wording of things, or
Amen.
It's more difficult than it seems. But tonight is going to be hopefully a wake-up call. In the last Sabbath study with Aaron, it seemed that a lot of people were taken off guard by the Sunday laws for all of God's people having already passed. Mm-hmm. And so we're gonna just review, because I know as one of your teachers, I take responsibility in not emphasizing that enough, because I've predominantly been staying with the Eden to Eden restoration line, because I don't feel like we've understood the gender test as we ought to. And so blame me all you want to for my role in helping this come as a surprise, but it hasn't been totally out of the blue. It's been something that since 2020, it was one of the oldest charts that I could find, where that was just the oldest photo in my phone, when this structure was lined up. And it could have actually been the very first time in 2018 when Tess drew all this out, because nothing has really changed. Everything that was brought out from the Midnight Cry, we're just getting a sharper picture of what that looks like and how we're unpacking everything. So now I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, was everybody aware that we have already gone into the Sunday law with all the two groups of the church and the one in the world? Was anybody surprised by that? As I mean, nobody said anything, so I'm just wanting feedback from people if that was something that was forgotten or new information altogether. I'll start calling on people if I don't have people speaking up. Now I need to figure out who's on that, if I can even see the name. I can't. Okay. All right, I'm just going to go down the row. Carol Pierce. were you taken by surprise? Were you surprised when Aaron said or asked if people were aware that 2021 was also a Sunday law for the Nethinims?
Okay. No, I didn't remember, to be perfectly honest. I remember, going over it, a while back, but I did not remember. So yeah, I guess I would say that I was surprised by it because I did not remember it.
Okay, thank you for being honest.
What can
David and Kathy, oh, go ahead, Penny, or Penny, Carol.
I wanted to just make a comment quick, Alyssa, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just so you know, when Aaron was doing his study, my comment was he was throwing out 1850, which was what I will call the big Sunday law for the Millerite time period. Okay, because that was the Fugitive Slave Act. And then it never happened in the 1880s, but it would have been, could have, would have, should have been a Sunday law at that time. And then when he was showing 2022, I knew 2022 wasn't a Sunday law. And when I made the comment that I was making, I may have actually misspoke, but I was referring to the fact that it wasn't the big Sunday law that's coming up still, because it's still future. And he was asking how we would communicate with the Nethinim. And I know that we're supposed to go to the Levites next, not Nethinims. And so my comment when I said it wasn't the Sunday law yet, because I know that's when the big Sunday law hits, that's when we actually start to do our harvesting of the Nethinims. But right now, between right now and the time that we get to that big Sunday law, that's the time that we're supposed to be harvesting the Levites, because by the time the big Sunday law comes, probation's closed on the church, 100%. And then we start harvesting the Nethinim. So that was my only point originally. And then I don't know if other people chimed in, but it is interesting to realize that the Nethinims, hit their midpoint, their midway, their midnight, at 2021.
Mm-hmm. Okay. David and Kathy Brown, how are you guys with this on Sabbath?
Well, I wasn't paying attention to it either, that it was their midpoint. I had my mind focused on the big Sunday law. We used to call it the National Sunday Law. And that's kind of where my mind was going. And I was confused with Aaron's thing because I knew 1850 was their Sunday law. And so I was thinking, well, and then he would say, we were going to go to the Nethinims. And I was with Bob. My mind was like, well, we're not quite there at 2022. We have to do and work on the Levite arena first. So I was confused with that. Anyways, I think I would have understood it better had he left off the number 2022 and just said, okay, so, back in 1850, they went to their neighbors. So when we go to our neighbors in at the Sunday law, what are we going to say? And the number was kind of throwing me off the 2022 thing.
Okay. And Gloria, if you were with us on Sabbath, I know, I don't know you very well, so if you feel comfortable with sharing, if you don't, that's fine too, if you don't mind saying either way.
Yes, hello everyone. I was sort of thrown off by the questions, so I'm here to learn. I'm just listening. Yeah, so I have no comments at this point. Thank you.
Yeah, Okay, and Kathy McGraw.
Um, well, my understanding was that the Sunday law wasn't the issue, that it was about how you give a straight testimony.
Mhm.
And he was just using 1850 and 1888 as witnesses on how would you present the message. Would you tolerate them in their wrong thinking? Would you meet them where they are? I think that was the issue that he was trying to establish. And I think the Sunday law issue took everything off track.
I'm glad you brought up that point about the straight testimony. Thank you.
Mhm.
Linda.
I suppose I was surprised. Um, it's hard to keep all the details straight and all the lines and keep all the information. Well, I know Bob mentioned this before. You get to a certain age and your life is full of so many things, but I tend to grasp things better when things are repeated over and over and over again. That's kind of why I still have Jeff Pippinger stuff rolling around in my head at times. And I tend to know the older stuff better than the newer stuff. But it's like, there's stuff that hasn't been covered recently, and then there's stuff that has. And of course, the more recently covered stuff is fresher in people's minds. I know it isn't mine. And when I go back and I listen to older stuff, I spent the day today listening to Tamina's most recent presentations on the nature of man. It came up on my feed, and I'm like, okay. But yeah, I'm still not totally sure I understand the whole issue. I mean, I know it had been mentioned that 2014 was our Sunday law. That I understood. But I'm not so sure I understand the latest things that are being shared.
Okay. Hopefully we'll clear some things up today. I don't know if Penny wanted to say anything. Oh, Mary, you're next on the list. I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing anything, but I'd like to hear from
Hello?
you either way.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't sure of the question because I was thinking of the role of the priest as they interact with the Nethinims and the Levites on Sunday. Since that the message is already gone to the Levites, they have already been called, chosen, and then we are at the point where they are being tested. I wasn't sure the interaction that the priests are going to have with the both groups since the message is already gone to them. I don't know if you are getting my point. Are we calling them? They've already been called since 9/11 for the Levites. So 2021 is their Sunday law. I wasn't sure the interaction that the priests are going to have with the either of the two groups, the Levites and the Nethinims.
Okay. Well, hopefully that'll become a little clearer today. Thank you for sharing. Penny, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add.
Hey, for me personally, I think I knew that it was, but with so much focus for me personally on our line that I think it just kind of slipped away from me. So maybe I was a little surprised, but then it was like, oh yeah, it is. So
yeah,
that's just kind of
thank you.
my
Thank
take.
you for sharing.
Uh-huh.
Dakota, if you feel like adding anything, if you don't, that's fine too. Just let me know either way.
She stepped out the room, so it's just me, Soraya, and the baby.
Oh, hey, Soraya. Did you want to comment?
Oh, no, thank you. I'm good.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thanks, everybody, for your willingness to add your perspective, your take on, I guess, how that was on Sabbath for everybody, as well as kind of where you're at. It gives me a better understanding of kind of what to focus on and what to, you know, how to teach better. So thank you. So the point that I want to begin with is when we were, I think it was Sue Ellen was asking to have more clarity on what does it mean to connect with a person where they're at. Is that something that means something that's not so good, or is that something that is a positive that we're supposed to do? And I think what the best way how to look at this is on an intellectual level, you know, to meet a person where they are on a knowledge base, on a kind of like what we did at the beginning, asking your input. That's meeting, if you can kind of take that as a picture of what meeting somebody on the intellectual level that they're at versus meeting somebody where they're at as far as their vices. You know, so if I were to put makeup on before going out and talking with my neighbors, that's not healthy. That's not a good way of meeting somebody where they're at. I know Sue Ellen's not on, but I hope that makes things a little bit clearer as far as kind of what I was talking with Aaron, and that was kind of the definition that we came up with, was on that intellectual plane of meeting somebody where they're at, as far as you know. It was also said that the message can't be summarized, and that was taken directly from the August 25th through the 28th camp meeting in Sacramento in 2021. This is the second video. I think it was called Spiritual Discernment in 1850. Yeah. So there's a couple of things that video seemed to connect with our conversation on Sabbath. Of course, you know, being 1850 kind of really seamlessly fits into that, but in a way of understanding this test that we have, and it's more than just understanding the test. It's applying what the test is, what the work is, how it works on the heart. And maybe another reason that I kind of lost track myself of kind of placing us on the lines as far as where we're at in all dimensions, in all you know, realms of our work, then because I felt like I needed to work on my sexism, you know, that I didn't feel like I could be as effective of a teacher. And I felt like that was, when I say feel, it's more of like a intellectual and settling into the message, into the truth of the matter. Because I've done the work to keep up with the studies, as well as go back and review as best as I can. So I think, as Kathy McGraw was saying, that we are or what Aaron was trying to kind of get us to realize is how we're going to give a straight testimony to our neighbors. And you know, neighbors also mean Levites. It is whoever we come across. And this, what Elder Tess emphasized in the first video of the oh, well, I thought it was of the Eden, Tina, and Stonewall, but now it looks like it says August 1st, 2021. Oh, okay, never mind. So in the first video of the series with the Sacramento group, August 25th through the 28th, the very first video, he's talking about the test of gender already being a global thing. It's not that it's a special thing within the United States. It's not that it is, you know, yes, there's a bunch of intersections that gender equality meet with, like racism and nationalism, and you know, the sin is universal, and that we're to see that each of us in our own way, in our own lives, have to sort that through, have to, you know, purge every bit of that sin from us. And the second video in Sacramento, the spiritual discernment awaits. Yes, that was the second one in Sacramento. Spiritual discernment in 1850. The universality of the test depends on our ability to see it going into a Laodicean condition puts you at risk. The dispensation of the Apis bowl cannot afford to take our focus off of sexism to the extent and learning. It's up to the teacher. So each of us have, when we're interacting with people, when we're talking with other people, teaching them, because that's what priests are. We're teachers. We have to. He's making a point of looking at kind of threading the story through the Apis bowl, and that was covered around this 2020 time period, and then sexism just kept on getting more and more focused, where we kind of grasp the hold of what radical feminism really means. And so to have a way of talking with people that helps them to see that what their standard of practice, of belief, is based on this Apis bowl mentality. And maybe we don't have to show them that if that's something that they don't understand but it's something that we have to take ourselves through first. And then we can start to put it into words, into phrases, into stories that these other people that we'll come in contact with, what they'll understand, and having good listening to be able to connect with a person. And just, sometimes it's less than you think of what you might not need to excavate the whole 2-hour story of Eden to Eden with a person, as much as it's just being kind, or maybe even framing a conversation around sexism on some level, how seeing something that's happening in the room and saying, gosh, I would do this differently, or however the wording. I really don't want to be the scripter of our conversations. I would really like for us to have spiritual discernment on our own, to be able to have conversations and to be able to process the messages, the work in that span of time that you're with those people, and have it be a growth experience for them, probably a little bit for you as well. But and that might be the most time consuming, but yet we can't, working on getting rid of our own apispal mentality, our own sexism. There's even one thing that I was really affected by was this, I think Penny might have shared it on internalized masculinity, internalized misogyny. I saw I could identify with that, and to dismantle that as best as I can, and still work on the areas in which I can see needs improvement, or if I'm not able to see it, then that's what you guys are hopefully also able to provide for us, for each other, is that ability to point things out and to say, hey, this might need to be corrected. This might be something that you might need to look at a little bit more, because it might not have been an issue had something else needed to have been worked out before. I know I'm being a little vague, so that a lot of different applications can be made, a lot of different situations can apply, hopefully. Or I've just been way too vague and whitewashed a wall, and you can't necessarily make sense of what's going on it. If that's the case, please ask me to clarify anything. Okay. Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna try and go back to where we were with the feedback, and focusing on the true testimony. I don't know why that phrase isn't sticking well. The straight truth, the straight testimony, because that's what we're doing with sexism. We're giving the straight testimony. Just like, so the way that we'll be interacting is kind of how Aaron already mentioned, as far as Sunday law. So or Sunday worship, rather, not Sunday law. because if we look at how we would approach talking with anybody about Sunday worship, if a person from the world, Gentile, Nephilim, God's people from the world, if they, you find that they're your neighbor, or you end up at the grocery store and talking with somebody in the checkout line. There are all kinds of different ways of interacting with these people. This is the latter rain that they're in right now, the world. And events are bringing the messages to them, or we can interact with them. Before Sunday law, we could have interacted with them all throughout their lives. It's a matter of knowing what the test is. A lot of times it's easy to lead with the diet or dress reform, because that's what, or the great controversy, because that's just what has been reinforced. But that's not what we're called to do. At Pentecost on our line, so in order to frame this understanding of giving the straight testimony, and in the Lambert chat, so Gloria and Mary, I apologize for not having the best view of the board. I sent a photo in the Lambert chat, so you'd be able to zoom in while I'm talking. But so I overlaid with the 144,000 and the priest line, both the present day application as well as as Christ events. So having a combined line of the omega of ancient, to the ancient Israel omega, modern Israel omega, which are the lines of success, just overlaid, and how we have come to an understanding of what these waymarks signify for us. And so we already kind of have an understanding. Christ's birth, Christ and John starts out, then Jesus' baptism, and then he goes into the wilderness, and then he's tested in the wilderness, and then there's the wedding at Cana, and then so that's there, and then 2014 for us, and this has been out there for a while too. I don't know when it was first taught, but 2014 is technically a Sunday law for the priest, but since it is midway, however, and that corresponds to the Millerite lines, how we've calculated that. But Tess has been emphasizing 2014 as the temple cleansing, the first temple cleansing. So that gives a better, in my mind, it gives a better handle, better understanding of what exactly is going on here, because it is midway. Then we can see that there's a transition of leadership. We go from John to Jesus, and the events that are impacting Jesus as well as the disciples. And so if we look at Jesus's life as a pattern, these are the things that we're being shown to understand more deeply. So with the temple cleansing being, I guess, how it's easiest for me to think about that, I don't hold on so tightly to this this fixed concept of the Sunday law being this hard-lined national Sunday law where a law is going to be put into place. It might still, but since we know that the test is not the Sabbath, the test is gender equality. And we know from back here that the test has already gone global. Then we can see that there's a lot of laws that can already be put in place. There's a lot of laws that we, are subjected to every day, especially when we're looking back at the DOMA laws, the Defense of Marriage Act. And, those laws that were put into place that put gender equality in an inequality, in the realm of inequality. So if we're looking for one hardline test, we're probably going to be shaken out because these laws have been all throughout our history. I mean, even if you look before the movement that prepared the 144,000, we've got the women's second wave feminist movement and Stonewall, along with the civil rights movement, but I was mainly emphasizing gender. So if we're looking for this type of Sunday law at 2014, or 2019, or 2021, we've got the wrong understanding. And so that's something that needs to be fixed, one. And to see how this pattern of Christ's life and the disciples, how it overlays the priest line, as it can overlay the 144,000, but this is much more applicable to us. I don't even know if I feel safe right now, considering myself 144,000, because there's a work as a priest that I'm not ready for yet. And I say that because when Aaron asked if the teachings that I give would cause these toes of chapter 2 of Daniel, the toes of church and state to break by the stone cut from the mountain from non-human hands, I did not see how those toes would break, because I don't see how we've passed our gender test, and the ways in which we are to come together at 2021 Pentecost. We were supposed to have these 4 objectives, checked off, I guess, for the disciples to understand the implications of this prophetic message, which I don't think we do. I don't think we understand the full implication, what we're supposed to do or how we're supposed to present it. Of course, we know that gender is the test that is already a worldwide phenomenon, already impacting everybody who is alive on this earth in one way or another. Stonewall, LGBTQIA plus inclusion. We have, we welcome them with open arms. We're an inclusive movement. And then we also have as our fourth point, Eden Internal, which Elder Tess has proved to be Cana. The wedding at Cana, the marriage includes the LGBTQIA groups. So these are the points in which we're to be unified on how we are to harvest the Levites. Now, the Levites, just like the Nethinims, they've already been receiving messages as far as watching the world events. They're already seeing, okay, the conference president put out a edict, for lack of a better term, the paper, position paper, stating that women are not to be ordained, and that LGBTQ are not welcome in the SDA church. That's, you know, so they're sticking with the apostate Protestant mentality, and they're already seeing this. The ones that are a part of the movement, they're already aware that that the church has shipwrecked. It's just a matter of time. And if there's not a hard, fast rule or law, rather, that's being passed, if we're already living in a world that is rife with the sin of inequality, of sexism, of patriarchy, of femicide, of sexual violence to women and trans women or trans men. These are the things that we're to be studying, that we're to be, you know, really digging into, because these are the things that the world has been seeing. They've already made up their mind. They've already sided with God on this. It's us, it seems like, that are needing to catch up. And I say that kind of lightheartedly, because we know that we have so much more to teach them. But for right now, how it appears is we've got a lot of work to do internally. I don't know if I'm ready to talk about that just yet, but okay, so everybody sees how the lines, the priest, midway, the Sunday law time, and the reason that I'm saying Sunday law and not midnight is because midnight, oh no, that was midnight Christ, never mind, you're right, Bob. So, you know, it's another characteristic of the Sunday law, and the reason that we kind of use that language is because it comes straight from Ellen White. She provides it in The Great Controversy. So it's just our mindset of how to define that word. And I know this is supposed to be a shorter night. Oops, sorry, I was looking at the time. So I'll just kind of summarize real quick. I guess there's a point that she brought out in the second video of the series that I've been talking about, the Sacramento, August 25th through the 28th of 2021, where she brings out 5 points, 5 things that we ought to be able to do before really going off and doing our own studies or really doing any other thing other than drawing lines, practicing, teaching this, getting our own sexism understood, and not just understood, but weeded out all the sources, figuring out, okay, well, I think this way because I saw my parents growing up having those thoughts or saying those things, or I had uncles or aunts or the people that I grew up with. I mean, all of the different influences in our lives of saying, not saying that it's all their fault, but rather just coming to the realization of, okay, these are patterns that have been imprinted upon me throughout my life. And now that I see them as something that I might not have consciously chose, I did, or I said something that I really don't like now, but I see that that was because of this mindset, because I was raised this way, because I chose all these different outlets, different avenues for myself. And in seeing the choices that we've made and seeing how, especially for women, how we probably could have chosen better for ourselves had we known what all the options were. If we had all the options that men would have had throughout our lives, or if we were to have grown up men, we probably would have had a totally different upbringing. Not that we'd be any less sexist, but that we would notice the differences in how we're looked at approvingly, or how we're accepted more, how we're listened to more, things like that. And so I find it really interesting too that the last time I spoke, we talked about Mary Beard with the radical feminism that Elder Tess marks at the 2020 2020 messages spilled over into or created the opportunity for the 2021 messages. And that was just feminism was part of the message in 2018. Radical feminism was part of the message in 2021 that led to 2021 Pentecost. Radical feminism has been having this way of illuminating all the different, like Mary Beard's points about how Roman and Greek civilization, the way that the literature kind of blossomed and became this light, this beacon for Western civilization to be built upon, is rife. It's stories filled with sexism, with women being silenced or in some way or another. And I think we as a group are much better than most groups in seeing how that's not right, how treating each person with dignity and respect in general is something that I didn't see needing us to be taught. But it is something that we're needing to really have fine detail, have a very fine picture on, because this is how we're going to be giving our straight testimony. If we don't understand how the Omega history feeds into modern Rome, or in relation to 1989, or the papal connection of World War I and World War II, or the 1888 history, the Protestant history in relation to 1888, 1950s, 1960s, and the moral majority, and today. Calvinism, conspiracy theories, how they interact with the three Protestant histories, the three histories of Adventism. If we don't have our message woven through in one of those forms, that's directly from Tess, how weird to know this message, that this is the foundation that we're supposed to have, because these are like the pillars in which the rest of the message is woven through, in which all of these waymarks are able to be hung. But it's not just how we teach that is relevant to our straight testimony. It's how we interact with each other. Do we allow each other to be sexist in any way? No, we don't. And is that kind? Yes, it is. You might not like me for a moment or two if I point something out, but is it kind? If it's right, if it's true, and if it is in alignment with the message, then absolutely that's kind, absolutely that's salvational. And as women, we have to be able to speak, and to speak without guile, without a mood, or even men, it's not about feeding a person with your beliefs. It's understanding the message so well that you're able to listen to when somebody says something, that you're able to, cast your reel and lure them in, so to speak. This is literally what fishermen of people, what that is, what that means, what that signifies. But this was definitely something that made it made me realize that every moment is precious, and there is a need to be committed to this. This is the last thing that I'll say. It'll be a pretty much verbatim of what Elder Tess is saying, and that'll close us out. But she's saying that we have to understand the lines, that we are supposed to, maybe this will help you, Linda, to turn off YouTube. She says, go to university, go to the midnightcry.co.uk, understand the lines. The church needs people with spiritual discernment, people who puts the responsibility of being in this movement in its right place. See the ugliness of sexism, not only stop excusing it within ourselves, but stop excusing those that they love, and stop attacking those who have to deal with the people they love. Know these lines, so when you do see things, and when you do see things and you read the media broadcast, you know how to place it when you speak to others. When leadership asks you to teach, you're a priest. You can't say no when you're called. It's your job description. You'll take your place in this work about to be done, but many won't. And she says that many won't take up this work because they refuse to lower the bar to allow others to accommodate it, meaning gender equality, that there are maybe it might be somebody here, maybe it's somebody else, but that there might be still some issue with accepting homosexuals in our movement, the LGBTQ inclusion, including them in marriage, baptizing, or maybe even gender roles is something that they hold somewhere in their heart of thinking that that's the right thing. And when we're allowing women to have equality, maybe in their mind they think that the bar is being lowered. The Elder Tess says it's not being lowered, it's not her bar to lower. And with that, I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Alyssa?
Yes.
I just wanted to tell you, I appreciate you going over this because the thing it's reminding me of more than anything is not only what, Elders Tess and Parmer have been saying to us about being teachers, but how important it is for us to really understand the lines and the issues at hand, so that as we're out and about doing our thing, we're going to be able to have the spiritual discernment to see where people are crossing the lines. And the other thought that I had is I know you lined it up, you took a board work from Elder Tess from some time ago, and she lined up all the midpoints for all the groups. And it's interesting to see that, because we know that there's a plowing, then there's an early rain, then there's a latter rain, then there's a harvest. And so when you realize that the midpoint or the Sunday law for each of the groups starts with an early rain, and then they have their Sunday law, and then there's their latter rain. And so that tells me not only have the Nethinims now in 2021 have reached their midpoint in 2021, their Sunday law, but it tells me that their early rain is over and they're into their latter rain. And their latter rain takes them all the way till we get to the big Sunday law, which you have pointed out quite well, is not a singular event. It's something that's just going to keep building and growing in that direction until it reaches a culmination. But that's another really important point. People who are waiting for a singular event are going to be lost because they're looking for something that's never going to happen, because it's been happening all along the way, and it's just building and building and building to a crescendo. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, there is something I want to bring a little bit more clarity on. I have written, so the mountain with a stone cut out, just to refresh. Ooh, sorry for knocking that. So the 4 and the 6 relate to the 10 commandments. So the first 4 being to serve God, the remaining 6 are to serve, they're in relation to your neighbor. So what we have been cut out of is, again, this goes back to Adventism taking from apostate Protestantism taking from Catholicism taking from paganism, that you're to revere God, to seek, God without any regard to your fellow man, to your fellow being, a fellow human. So this service to one another really does culminate with gender equality and what all of that, what that encompasses in regards to radical feminism. Any last questions before we transition to praise and prayer?
So our Sunday law was last year.
2014.
Okay. Well, that was my original understanding, and then it seemed like that was wrong, or something wasn't right. That's I'm still not getting.
Do you see how that is, Linda?
Well, yeah, that was my original understanding. I was just double checking to make sure if I'm still.
I'm trying to
That's right.
see what did I say that gave you the point that it was last year? Oh,
Well,
for the Nephilim?
yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I guess I had it right
Okay.
in my head.
It's okay. I mean, being wrong is how we learn. That's not something we should be afraid of. I hope by now you've all learned that I am wrong, and I try to be I try to be very sparing with those times of being wrong. But when I am quick to say I'm sorry. I'm quick to say what is right, to do what's right. So I think that's something that we all can take a lesson from me. It's okay to screw up. It's okay to say the wrong thing, as long as you're striving for improvement, and that's really only something that I think you can do with God, asking those questions for clarity and for discernment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I do remember somebody mentioning that the Sunday law for the Nephilim was last year.
It's just been a while since we've had a study with these. So I am glad that Aaron kind of brought that out, or brought that up, that okay, we need to look at those again, and also to get more clarity on what it means to meet people where they are. Hopefully, hopefully that's clear enough. I know I didn't go into a whole lot of examples, but meeting people where they are, as far as, if you had a conversation about the history of Protestantism, okay, great, that's an entry point. That, rather than meeting them where they are, as far as, trying to, I guess, sink to their level is a way of looking at it, but it's not a very nice way of stating it. But in regards to sexism, you wouldn't say anything sexist to somebody just to, try and make a friend in the world that's not showing anything of an example. But hopefully that'll bring a little bit more clarity. But if nobody else has anything, close with prayer. Just a quick one, and then we'll stop the recording. Heavenly Father, loving Creator, how grateful I am that you have allowed us all to be together this evening. that through my imperfections, others can see that it's okay for them to venture forward, to be more inquisitive, be more talkative with people when they feel like they have flushed sexism, patriarchy out of their system as best as possible. I say a special blessing for all of the leaders tonight, that we hold each one of them in our hearts. We ask you to give them divine guidance. We ask all of this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.